Welcome to Dynamos Dozen, the podcast that I bring you each and every single week, where I talk about whatever may be on my mind. From pro wrestling, sports, entertainment, music, movies, muesli, fresh shots and jokes, and everything in between. Never forgetting the talk. We are here once again, and I am joined once again by my right-hand man, the master of the upper tier, your favorite football podcast and mine, the shopkeeper, as you wrestling fans know him. Mr. Niall Hogan is here today to shock the system on this very, very cold Friday night as we record. And we begin another weekend. Niall, my friend, how are you?
Really good. How are you, my friend? Yeah, all good. Looking forward to this one.
Yes, so we have something. One of the things that we noticed with the Dynamo Podcast Network and what you've noticed on your channel as well, a lot of the feedback that we get, that we got even with the four pod men, but something that I've got over the years I've been doing Dynamos Dozen, people love lists, whether it be the list of Jericho, whether it be the list of whatever it may be, but they love hearing the likes of ourselves do lists, our top 10 lists or our top 5 lists. So we are on the road to WrestleMania. So what we thought we would do to kind of get everyone excited, because this is probably the only place you're going to get excited about pro wrestling at the moment, is that we would pick out our all-time favorite top 10 in no particular order, because that can change on a daily basis, on an hour. In fact, it could probably change pretty much live on air if we were to do a top 10, and we could be here all night.
It'll change during this show.
It will change during the show, and we don't know each other's lists. So what we've done as well is we put about 6 to 7 honorable mentions as well, so that our fan base doesn't come and attack us for not putting their favorite match on, and B, so that we, just in case we overlap. So I think it would be only right, you being the guest of honor, even though you're part of the furniture now, that you should go first and kick us off with your first match.
I'm gonna go in strong, really strong here, and I'm gonna go Taker, Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25.
Interesting.
That's the home run straight out of the ballpark. Ain't messing around tonight.
Interesting. I suppose I might as well mention then that I also have that on my list. So there's no point in talking about it twice.
Look, on your 1 to 10 list, or your notable mentions? Your
no,
1 to 10,
1 to 10.
Your top list.
Yeah. We're going to do the notable mentions after.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you leave this off? It's impossible.
Brilliant match, brilliant build up. Two of the best entrances you'll see, heaven and hell.
Yeah, this was the god Shawn Michaels. Yeah, this was really interesting.
It was brilliant. This was Shawn Michaels at his best, I would say. Absolutely brilliant. Even during the match, his selling, his bumping, everything was on point. Absolutely brilliant. Made Taker look $1 million. I had the benefit of being in the stadium that night, as well, as you well know. So absolutely brilliant. It was the match that saved the card, to be honest.
Yes.
Because to be honest with you, WrestleMania 25 was such a poor WrestleMania in my eyes. Anyway, I think there was a lot of messy matches and a lot of throwaway kind of matches. And then, when your highlight is nearly Kid Rock singing, you're at a tough mania. Now, I had a feed of drink in me. So
most
sometimes
songs
that
good.
makes it look better.
Most songs are good when you've had that.
Yeah, but that's a match that has to be on nearly everyone's top 10, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it was at a time where Taker could still kind of go as well. He didn't even need to be carried as such. And both guys, just really pushed each other, I think, in this one to probably the best Mania match of their individual careers, I would dare say.
Yeah, this was the match where the dead man stared death in the face, albeit for a cameraman and the quick thinking of Shawn Michaels on his feet.
Yes.
This is one of those moments where the dead man got a bit too much elevation on the dive to the outside and nearly spiked himself.
Yes, it was a hell of a view, but I would not. I would dare say if it had went a couple of inches further south, it could have been a very, very nasty thing.
Absolutely,
Probably the end of Taker, yeah.
Yeah, and it was the sacking afterwards then of Juice. Snooker's son was the cameraman.
Yes,
he got fired afterwards for it because Taker tried to pin it on him, and Juice was having none of it. Stood up and said, "It wasn't my fault, mate. You got the dive wrong." Taker didn't like that, and hence Juice got fired. He was part of Juice and Domino, if you remember, with Cherry.
Yeah.
Remember when they were doing that kind of grease kind of gimmick?
Yeah.
With Cliff Compton. Yeah. So there you go. So
yeah, I'm back in Team Taker on this one. Fucking cameraman shouldn't be in the way.
The thing is, he was supposed to be in the way. He wasn't in the right position.
That's what I mean.
Michaels pushed him to break the fall.
Yeah. Right. So because that was mine also, you may as well go again.
Go again. Let me give you another one.
Number 9, we'll do the countdown.
There's a lot of matches I have on this top 10 list that you'll be very happy about. Safe to say, your boy Bret Hart is featured in a good few of them.
It's impossible not to, isn't it?
Yeah. So number 2 on my list again, and it's very hard to rank these. I often say with people, because all these matches are so different and they're all really brilliant for different reasons and in different ways. There's no comparable trend to them. So it's very hard to say like this is 1 and this is 10. It's like when we do our Mount Rushmore shows on the Podmen as well. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to rank who's the actual best for whatever reason and all. So
it depends on what you're looking for too, and the context from it. Like if you're a wrestling purist, you might like a certain thing, or if you're you're into high spots or tag teams, you might be into other things. So it really is down to personal taste. There is no way of saying this is the best WrestleMania match of all time. It just really depends. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 2, I had one that you'll no doubt is on your list. If it's not on your list, I'm logging off now. Owen versus Bret, WrestleMania 10.
It's probably in my top 2 WrestleMania matches. I am a bit biased. Do both involve Bret, as in my favorite 2 matches from a personal perspective that I've seen, and 2 very, very different matches. But this is without a shadow of a doubt on the list. I alluded to it there very briefly, that if you're kind of a wrestling purist, then this is the match for you. Good Lord. Not even a passing of the torch. Two brothers in their absolute prime, but one not so egotistical that he couldn't give his brother a bit of the rub as well and a bit of the spotlight. And this was really the start of the heel Owen Hart, and showed that he was here and he was here to stay in MSG, WrestleMania 10, albeit really awesome. in the Mecca. Yeah, you can speak about this one for a little bit if you want, because I could talk about.
Yeah, I kind of loved it as well. 2 Canadian boys on in New York, you know what I mean? It was absolutely fantastic. But Owen was unbelievable in it. We've referenced many times on the shows about layers. And we've always known Owen the comedian and Owen the kind of joker and the trickster and stuff like that. But this was kind of a darker, serious, more side to Owen. This was like an internal family beef feud that needed to be settled, and it was really good. Like I really enjoyed it.
But the wind up was still there in ring, like anytime he thought he won, like, I mean, at the very start, he thought he won a lockup and he's jumping up doing the famous Owen, grabbing the hair early on and stuff like that. I mean, like, if it's not everyone, if people don't agree that it's the best, WrestleMania match of all time, I think we could probably all agree that it's definitely the best opening Mania match of all time, because this was the opener. Like, wow, what a way to whet the appetite when you've got, the likes of William Shatner and all in the building.
It was ridiculous for an opener when you think about it. Imagine having to follow that.
Oh, yeah, like Lex and Yoko did. So, sorry guys, it doesn't matter how good you look.
I can imagine the 2 boys backstage going, Jesus Christ. We have our work cut out for us tonight.
Thanks for that, lads. Yeah. Right, well, look, that was also on my list, so we may as well, chalk that one off as well and go into your third.
My third one, again, not in any order. Piper versus Bret, WrestleMania 8 IC title match. There'll be a trend going down through this, no doubt about it. And it does take a little bit of a swerve because I like to throw it in there. But again,
WrestleMania 8, obviously the Hoosier Dome. Yeah, the Hooger Dome.
Yeah.
What an arena too, by the way. I still have vivid memories as a kid of watching that, like a couple, when you get the tape, maybe a week later. And I remember watching it on a Friday night with a pizza before I watched the Turtles, and going, wow, you could almost see the illumination of the sky. You know what I mean? Through the clear rooftop.
Yeah.
Like it just felt huge, didn't it? It just felt huge.
And the camera work was always brilliant because the camera work made it look twice as big as it was. But and it's sad now because when you go to the States now, when I visit the States or go over for Mania or stuff like that, there's always the old building is beside the new building and it's just crushing into rubble. And the history of those buildings in terms of wrestling and stuff like that. Like I remember when I went to 25.
The Hooger Dome's gone, is it?
I don't know whether it's gone or not, but I just know with these older buildings, they tend to tend to just sort of, they just let them rot away. Because I remember when I was going to, I think it was 25 I went to in Houston, and right beside the new stadium is the Astrodome. And it's just all chicken fence around it, and it's just crumbling into the ground. They just leave them there to rot away, basically, like a dead carcass. And it's so sad, really.
I think when you're creatures, sorry, a bit of a loop there. I think when you're creatures of nostalgia, like us two as well, like you think of like that ground is just rubble now, but the things that happened in that arena at one point that made people so happy, that built an atmosphere that could raise the dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like when you watch the Von Erich documentary and Kevin walks into the old place down in Texas there and stuff like that, and the memories, and it's just falling apart. Or if you see those videos now about the Pontiac Silverdome in Michigan, and it's like a broken down old hovel skateboard kind of park for down and outs and homeless and stuff like that, and you go, imagine not so long ago there was like we'll say 93,000 just for the record. We're sitting in that stadium cheering on Hogan and Andre and Savage and Steamboat.
It's very creepy though. It's very eerie, isn't it? When you think,
it is.
I suppose it's no different than when you look at a certain place from your childhood in your local area that brought so much joy, and it's just there. You know what I mean? I know I talk to a lot of Calgary guys, Flames fans, and old school wrestling fans that talk about the old Stampede building and the matches there. With the Bulldogs and Bad News Brown and Stu, and Andre coming up to those places. Like it's just it's absolutely crazy. Look, this match is without doubt on my list. It was pretty much when Brett was kind of making his way as a singles. He was obviously the Intercontinental Champion, and Shawn, putting the work behind the name, the worker's belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and absolutely.
I would dare say this is probably, and I think Piper has said it before, that it's one of his best matches, if not his best. The story the two boys told was absolutely fantastic. The little promo with me and Gene before the match, and Piper's, I remembers you when you were knee high to a grasshopper. And when he goes to grab Brett's cheek and Brett pushes him and he goes, "Oh, I'm just trying to have fun with you here." Like it really built the suspense.
Absolutely.
That's something I think that pro wrestling pay-per-views miss nowadays, isn't it? Because there's so much in the run-up and on the weekly episodes that suspense that you could get with the interviews before they went out is something that's kind of missing, I think.
Well, you see, if the problem as well with the new breed of wrestlers and the new crop of wrestlers, and this is where we start to sound old and stuff like that, but all this new crop of wrestlers that have come in, they haven't gone through the territory system. They haven't come up together through the old days.
Yeah.
A lot of even that family stuff has gone away, So these are guys that are just coming in. I wouldn't say coming in cold, because obviously they've worked on the indie scene and they've trained and stuff like that. But, he spent time up with Brett and Brett's family and stuff like that.
Should have related, apparently, anyway.
Yeah, so there's a history there you can play on.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the times in wrestling now, that history wouldn't be there, you know what I mean? So
and I think the first time we seen that famous pin, one of the most innovative pins ever. It's great when you listen back to them talking about it when, he hits the belt or hits the bell behind him over the head. And Brett then he has the sleeper on Brett, and he kicks the legs off the turnbuckle and rolls up into the pin.
Rolls back.
Those sort of innovative things were just really what made Brett, I suppose, stand out at the time, and even in 2022. So that's number 3. So you may as well go again.
Keep on going there, will I?
Yeah.
This is an interesting one, because this is one that, you know, nowadays doesn't sit well with people and stuff like that. This is when we talk about the Forbidden Door
20?
and we talk about,
Are you going WrestleMania?
yeah, I'm going WrestleMania 20 and I'm going to Triple Threat. Obviously, three wrestlers who I followed for years and who I admired greatly, and still to this day, two of them I admire, and one I still struggle to figure out what I'm supposed to do in that kind of circle when I look at and stuff like that. But Triple H versus Benoit versus Shawn Michaels, outstanding match, unbelievable. And for him, let's park what we know went on and stuff like that, but for him to climb that mountain and win that belt, and to see him in the ring and that moment with Eddie Guerrero, and you know, these are memories that stick in your memory forever. Prior to knowing obviously what went on later in life and stuff like that. And also, look, we won't glorify him on the episode, but safe to say it was an outstanding wrestling match.
No, we can glorify his in-ring work for sure. I think if you separate the man from the monster, that is something that probably a lot of us have had to come to terms with over the years, including, you know, men that worked with him, and you know, we're like family and brothers to him. So I mean, what a match. I think Shawn Michaels selling in this was just, again, fantastic when he was in the crossface. You know, it's amazing match. I'm going to follow that up with another great piece of Shawn Michaels selling in a match, and it was the year after WrestleMania 21 versus Kurt Angle.
It's on my list.
It's on your list. Okay. So we can both talk about that.
It's on my list.
The build up to this was just absolutely fantastic. This was sexy Kurt and all, wasn't it? And you know, Queen Sherry coming in and, you know, valeting with him while he's singing sexy Kurt, and really trying to get into Michael's head. And you know, this was Michael's coming back, you know, version 2, which arguably was even better than version 1, some say. But my God, you know, I remember one piece of genius selling from Michaels when he was in the ankle lock. And, you know, he's the acting and selling from Michaels at that period was just, you know.
But it wasn't the way he sold for Hogan later on, where it was kind of a piss take.
No, I mean,
this was a level of selling, because he was in there with a guy he highly respected. So he wanted him to look really good. And when you look back at Kurt Angle's career, I mean, there's so much good stuff that we nearly forget about, even just small little things. But that sexy Kurt stuff was just incredible. Like, you know what I mean? He was just brilliant, you know?
Yeah, no, so that was on your list as well.
That was on my list, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, I suppose I may as well go again then. Let me see. What will I try and pick out here? Okay. We'll mix it up a bit. I went with WrestleMania 18, and I think you know what match I'm going to go with. It wasn't the return of Triple H. It was, and the reasons for this, you know, for if it's not clicking any you know, any kind of cogwheels or anything like that in people's brains when I say 18, X8, whatever you want to call it. Let me just preface it by saying the most electrifying atmosphere that's
absolutely
probably been since Hogan and Andre, or Hogan and Warrior to that point. And it does involve Hulk Hogan, or Hollywood Hogan in this instance. And it does also involve the most electrifying man in sports entertainment then.
Who became Hollywood Rock.
There you go. Yeah, followed the footsteps and just made, you know, just made those footsteps a little bit bigger. Listen, you know, I went back and watched this. I think a lot of people who know we're fans of Uncle Jim Cornette, and you probably heard him doing the watch along with Brian Last and just talking about how great it was. It's the little things that these two do. I mean, Rocky getting booed. You know, it's not meant to go this way. You're going, what in the name of? I mean,
it was the epitome of when people say less is more, isn't it? It's the absolute epitome of that, and it was just put off to a T, and it was just. But I don't know whether you struggled with this today when you were doing your list. When you look at WrestleMania 17, 18, and 19, you could fill your list just from those three if you wanted. There's so many great matches on it.
You could do. I mean, look, this is a personal list for me, and I try to mix it up in terms of things that make me a fan and things that I like. So, you know, I'm sure a lot of people were expecting me to come on, you know, to have, you know, wrestling clinics as my top 10 match. And look, I could have very easily done that. I mean, you could almost do a different stipulation top 10 list for your best Mania matches, couldn't you? Because there's been that many. But I think in the kind of interest of mixing it up and giving some context as to what I think these type of lists show what kind of wrestling fan you are and what, you know, what you see in wrestling and what brings you back to it and makes it part of your DNA. But I think this one, I mean, there was a story told in it, you know what I mean? The young lion was coming to get the old lion, and the old lion was back, you know, in the Toronto Skydome where he was, you know, at WrestleMania 6. And, you know, fair play to Hogan as well. He wrestled a lot of that match with a broken rib too, which we saw at the end. And I think he done everything he could to help The Rock as well by starting to turn heel. It shows you what a great worker Hogan really was. You know what I mean? Forget about was he technically efficient and all this stuff. You know, he was.
It's in those moments when a match can go south. He holds it together. And, you know, those, like another guy in there who wouldn't be up to his level could break a rib like that, and that could just go to shit.
Absolutely.
You know,
even when he heard The Rock, he sucked, and The Rock was getting the boos, and The Rock's kind of looking around going, this isn't in the script. And you can see Hogan starting to break out all the heel moves then as he's hearing that. You know what I mean? The rake on the back and the strap, taking the belt off and bashing the shit out. But it didn't matter. It was nostalgia coming back to people. And I think it showed also how great a worker Hogan was, that with the handshake at the end, knew he could leave that ring getting Rocky over again. So, I mean, it was just the old lion being a master of his craft.
This was Rock at his most elastic self as well. Remember when he was setting up for those people's elbows and all, and he was so spread out and animated and all. Like you know, when you talk about Shawn overselling for Hogan when at SummerSlam and stuff like that, Rock was doing so much of this, but not in a detrimental way. But he was so pumped up and stuff like that. You know,
do you know what The Rock was?
I love those matches as well. Yeah, but I love those matches as well where the norm changes on the fly and you're not expecting, you have to react to it and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So it was brilliant. Like
I think that when you look back, you kind of don't appreciate how good The Rock was, because he always done that. But you know what, but it was like he was conducting the orchestra with his body. He was letting the people know exactly what's coming, and that's how you know Rocky. You know what I mean? My view is.
But even when he did the skip jumps over him off the ropes, the elevation he got on the passing him, like it was like as if he was trying to be so safe. You know what I mean? But it was just incredible.
One of the safest top stars of all time, without a shadow of a doubt. Sometimes probably a little bit. It could have done with being a little bit more snug, to be fair. But I mean, those slap punches, because you could tell he was getting into it, he was feeling it. And when he done this, he was just so, like, literally electrifying. He really was. Did this make your list? No?
It's actually in my notable mentions.
Okay, well, don't tell me your notable mentions, right? So it's not on your list. Okay, so
no, it's not in my 10.
So what was that? Was that number 4 or 5? I don't know where we are now.
I think we've done 3 each, have we?
No, let me see. So we had. So I had Rock and Hogan, Bret and Piper, Kurt.
Sorry, I've given you 4. Yeah, I've given you 4.
Right. So you're on to number. Oh yeah, done 5 now, because I've had Undertaker, Michaels. Yeah. So you're on your 5th now. Yeah.
I'm on my 5th now.
Yeah. Structure on Dynamos, doesn't people? Structure. Where we were getting encapsulated and brought back in time there by 2 absolute
We were getting
legends.
excited.
We were getting a little bit excited. Yeah.
This one was kind of very real emotional one for me.
You always do this on Dynamos, don't you?
WrestleMania 19, Safeco Field, Seattle.
Okay.
Rock versus Austin. I thought that was amazing. I thought the build-up was unbelievable. I thought Rock getting into the vest, I thought the whole thing was just unbelievable. And the emotion at the end and the words that they had at the end, and we knew like Austin was fairly broken down at this stage, but Rock had to pretty much guide him through it, but he gave as good as he got. but I just thought the wave back and forward, and I thought, remember Rock in the build up to this and all, and talking about him being this ball, this, that, and the other, and all, and really tearing into him. But the emotion of the match was unbelievable, and I think the crowd as well knew where Austin was at. It was fairly well known out there.
Did you pick 19 or 17?
19.
So
Austin's
last match. Yeah.
That's his last match.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I just remember they had the entrance, and the entrance had the bend on it.
Yeah.
With the crowd and stuff like that.
That was a great Mania. It was actually.
It was a brilliant event. That was the Limp Bizkit one and all, wasn't it? That was with Taker and all that kind of stuff and all. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, so I had that match on there just for the emotion of it and stuff like that, and especially that bit at the end where he pushes the ref away and the two of them are having words. Remember, on the mat, and Austin's laid out. Yeah,
you're not going to get me this time, even though it's Friday. I haven't had enough beers in yet to get the tears out. So, but you're pumping. You're pumping at you're tugging at the heartstrings, should I say?
Absolutely, yeah.
Look, fucking what a great show. It's not on my list, but who am I to say it shouldn't be? It could be tomorrow. I'll probably go back and watch the match now after this and be like, God damn. Yeah.
Remember the documentary, The Mania of WrestleMania, and I had all the background to it with him.
Yeah, stuff and the book, reading Austin's book as well, how about he was basically knocking back, he was basically drinking 2 or 3 pots of coffee in the morning and then knocking back all those energy drinks. And he obviously had the heart attack scare the night before, and just got a load of steak dinners into him. And
JR had to bring him to the A&E and all, didn't he? ER room and all, and he wasn't sure it was going to go ahead and stuff like that.
He went to hospital, and they brought him.
And it was mainly, they were saying he was freaked out, wasn't he? Because he was concerned that he couldn't deliver what people expected.
Exactly. Paranoia.
And it was freaking him out and stuff like that. So that'll tell you the measure of the man in terms of what he thought of the business and stuff like that. Out of respect to the fans that paid big money to be there, and also to Rock as an opponent, he didn't feel he could deliver what he wanted, and he was having panic attacks and everything. And also, shout out
like the Brazilian Ronaldo in '98. It's mad, isn't it? These guys do this in their sleep, and it just shows the delicacy of the human brain and mind.
Carry the weight of the company or the organization or the team, and sometimes it becomes too much.
100%, 100%. Same should be said for Lukaku, but we won't go there. Someone give him 20 pots of coffee and might wake him up. It wasn't on my list, but I'll tell you what. I struggled with this, right? And this is going to sound a little bit controversial. I was actually being a little bit of a people pleaser here, I gotta say. And I was, I was on the verge even over the last 20 minutes to an hour, thinking about replacing this with something else. But in the end, I think the weight of it, I think you probably know where I'm going here, don't you? The weight of it and the meaning of it kind of just pushed me just a fraction to just sticking by my guns. And it's like gunfight at the OK Corral, you know what I mean? You've got yourself into this sticky situation. Noon is fast approaching. Can't make any last minute changes now. There's no backing out now. So I got to give it.
You've licked that leave insert exam paper and you've put it in, so there's no change. The ballot box is full.
I mean, you called out that gunman. You've got to look him in the eye, and in this case, the gunman is our audience. So I would be disrespectful to them if I didn't keep it in. And the reason it's going to sound controversial is because I had a battle with this one. It was Steamboat and Savage at 3. Now let me give the context behind why I was struggling with it, because I think it's become one of those matches that's, it's got to be in there. You know what I mean? Just because you're told it's got to be in there. I do think it's a timeless match. I do think the idea that it was literally scripted from start to finish kind of, I don't know. It's never been my thing, kind of with Steamboat on this one, I'd probably be panicking to remember page 47 and fucking move 31, which is literally a drop toe hold. I'd be like, what? That's not a move, man. It's a movement. But
our friend was meticulous in his preparation.
And I love him for it. But there was some matches that I left out purely because I thought they probably would have meant more. And Savage was involved in one of them too, so not having to go with Savage. But look, Ultimately, I watched the match again today, which was my deciding factor. And I kind of went, right, look, take away all of that. It's for the time, what, 1987? Was it? Yeah, 87, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's the build-up as well. It's the build-up with the neck injury.
Yeah.
It's the good feeling with Steamboat coming back because everyone loved Steamboat.
Yeah, of course.
Savage was just louder than life. It was George Steele was involved. George with Elizabeth. There was so much stuff going on. It was chaos.
Creepy bastard there, George.
But what it did deliver was it was two guys who cared enough that they wanted to outshine possibly one of the biggest main events in the history of the business.
Well, the biggest, let's say, up to that point.
The biggest, if you like, in terms of, And I think they certainly achieved that. And I think it does. It didn't make my list, but it normally would, and it is there mentioned.
So you can see the reasons as to why I was possibly not gonna. Okay.
If you ask me to do the list again tomorrow, it would probably be in my top.
There you go.
It just floats in and out, you know what I mean? Because you kind of, when you think of Randy Savage as well, even though like I'm a huge Steamboat fan as well, but when you think of Randy Savage and you do a top 10 WrestleMania list, he got to be in there somewhere, hasn't he?
Oh,
got to put him in there somewhere.
Possibly on a number of occasions. I mean, I saw someone's top 10 list today that had Savage and Flair in their top 3, which I was very surprised with. But then, I could go back now and watch that match this evening, which I have a plan to watch literally loads of WrestleMania main events tonight. But I could go back and watch that tonight and go, Niall, you got to go and watch it again. And you could go, I see why, you know what I mean? So, well, look, that was my number 6 or 7?
That was your number 5, wasn't it? I gave you my 5 and that's your 5th.
That's my number 6. So let's go through what we've had so far. I've had Rock versus Hogan, which is 1, Bret versus Piper, which is 2, Kurt versus Michaels, which is 3, Owen versus Bret, which is number 4, Undertaker Shawn, which is number 5, and then Steamboat versus Savage, which is number 7. So I'm down to my last 3. So you're on number 7 now.
Yeah, I think I still have a couple to go because there was a bit of overlap with you.
Yeah, but you do.
Yeah, I suppose I'm going in here, not leaving Safeco Field straight away. As I said to you, when I looked at these WrestleManias, you get drawn in, you look at one match and you go, oh yeah, but remember that, and remember that, and remember that. And we're back at WrestleMania 19.
But just so people know, the upper tier is now sponsored by the Safeco Field. They're doing a deal.
We're going to be doing live podcasting there one day, maybe.
For sure.
I went with the man that you believe deserves a lot of respect at the moment, the Beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle, which was an absolute exceptional match. And talking about a match that stands up as a passing of the torch, even though the old shooting star didn't go necessarily to plan and the man nearly killed himself, but
a scary
parked at a very scary moment for both men. And again, one to look at the mania of WrestleMania, the background to that as well. Lesnar's out back going ballistic on a golf trolley trying to be put into an ambulance. And we know that Kurt had fractured a load of ribs where he connected with him and stuff like that and all. But this was a real emotional match. This was two guys, both with wrestling backgrounds, both decorated wrestlers. But Brock coming up being that kind of,
next
big thing, raw, edgy, didn't realize his own strength, his own power, all that kind of thing. And, even to this day, I shiver when I see him going to the top rope and I still shout at the screen, don't do it, Brock.
No need.
And he was so close to getting it. So close to getting it.
Yeah.
And it was just an exceptional match, 2 brilliant performers. And Kurt doing the absolute business to make Brock Lesnar look like not only the next big thing, but a big thing.
I concur wholeheartedly. I cannot argue. Cannot argue with that. Came close to being on my list again. It was in a very long short list, so a not so short list, but a short list, albeit. I'm down to my final 2, I believe.
Yeah.
My top 10, yeah.
I've got 1. What have I got? 1, 2. I have 3.
No, I have 3 as well. So I'm down to my final 3.
Yeah,
I do apologize. Right. Yeah. So I am going to go with the first time it was ever done in WWE, between the two top stars at a time when the company wasn't doing so hot, but not doing so bad either. I think, 94, 95 was kind of the dark period, kind of just financially because of what was going on in the background with Vince and, the steroid trials.
Company trying to find itself, going through a bit of hardship.
Exactly. Trying to rebuild, let's say, is a perfect.
The business evolving again in front of their eyes.
Now these two men have both had a hand in it. One was a little bit more successful than the other, holding the gold. But this is another passing of the torch. 1996, the Anaheim Pond, WrestleMania 12. A year after we had the wonderful Salt and Pepper playing. Just for any,
pick them. They do pick them.
Just a little random bit of fucking nostalgia throwback for shits and giggles. But look, a 60-minute Iron Man match. The build up to this was absolutely fantastic. It was obviously pre Bret Shawn fallout. I don't know how this match doesn't get the respect that it deserves in some kind of media outlets and with some fans. I don't know whether it's that they don't have the patience to go back and watch it again. But I thought the match was absolutely fantastic. The story told in this match, like I can remember literally move for move, and I haven't watched it in years. Like I remember at the very start, it was the young lion, as in Shawn, outgunning Bret at his own game by kind of getting the better of him on hip tosses and getting the better of him on the mat exchanges and stuff like that. And you can kind of see the frustration building. Bret going, okay, I'm gonna have to be real aggressive with this little fuck, you know what I mean? And Shawn being so quick and agile at the time. This match was absolutely fantastic. Cameraman, one of the best, or was it the bellkeeper that got that fucking unfortunate super kick after Bret moved out of the way from Michaels and stuff? Jesus, like you could still hear that smack, that poor guy. I'm sure there was a nice little brown envelope straight away. Get out to the bank and get me some cash.
Absolutely.
We may need to fix this man's teeth or possibly jaw. But like the whole getting down, where and I don't think any man came out of this looking bad, but at the same time, they still done a good job in building Shawn that he was the next thing, because he was still hanging with Bret, but Bret didn't look weak either, I don't think, initially. Because obviously he has him in the sharpshooter and the time elapses and Bret walking out thinking he's won it, and big Gorilla Monsoon coming back into the ring and saying, no, it's got to continue. Bret coming back
down. Remember down on the oil, get back in there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Bret, and you remember when Bret turned and he was absolutely drenched and the hair was just dripping off him, and Bret turns and he goes, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. He gets in, obviously Shawn, hits him with the timing of that match was just fantastic. Like the pacing of that match was just I think I heard Shawn, maybe it was on that JR show that they done where the two of them were sitting talking, Bret and Shawn. And Shawn was saying, like, it was really kind of it was really interesting to work with Bret at that time, because he obviously had more experience at the time of doing those hour-long matches, so they knew kind of what pacing they wanted, and what way they could pace it. And look, this wasn't like an old school 1950s, 1960s, hour-long Donnybrook. This was, two athletes probably at their peak.
This was a match that took a few years off both competitors' lives. There's no doubt about it. They put in a shift that night. There's no doubt about it. This wasn't sitting half the night on a headlock or sitting down on something, or putting a few rest holds on. This was two proper guys trying to put a shift in there. It reminded me kind of a little bit, when I watch it these days, it reminds me a little bit like a Rocky movie where, Rocky is starting at the start and gets the upper hand. But then the other competitor comes back into it and he's taking all that competitor's punishment. And it's like he's trying to wear him out. And then he comes back again to get the win and stuff like that and all. And it's very built up in that way of bringing you on that emotion. As you said, Shawn was in there at the start and Bret was feeding into him and stuff like that. And then Bret said, right, now it's my time. Boom, and I'm going to go. And it just went back and forward like that. But brilliant match. Yeah, I think it's probably it's a hard one as well, because I suppose when you want to go, if you want to go back and watch it, it's like you're investing an hour, you know what I mean? So it's like if you can get maybe a clipped version of it on YouTube, you tend to enjoy it a little bit more, because there's key moments in the match, but it takes a bit of time to get there in some of those key moments.
I
But
suppose, again, it
I'm not a
depends.
huge fan of Iron Man matches anyway. You
Yeah,
know, I
it
think that
really, this one depends on what kind of wrestling fan you are. For me, I can go back and watch Pat O'Connor and Lou Thez wrestle for an hour and 30 minutes. And I understand that people will find that boring. For me, it's not, you know what I mean? For me, even though I'm a 38-year-old man now, I'm probably never going to step in the ring again. It brings me back to my 18-year-old self going, well, like if I could do it all again, it's just a little thing, you know what I mean?
Well,
but
see,
no,
my problem is that, like, I love watching it, but I just don't have an hour to spare. So I get like a 20-minute version of it on YouTube or something like that, and I still get what I need out of the match by rewatching that.
But that's why I haven't watched it in many years, as I said to you, Niall. I don't have an hour. But I can almost remember move for move anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Shawn coming out with his first world title, obviously the famous get out of the ring kind of jab and all. This was obviously where the start of everything came. But so that's we're down to my final two. So you have your number seventh, is your seven, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I've three to go.
Yeah,
three to go on the 10 list.
What you got?
This is an interesting one, because this is one you probably wouldn't have expected to be on my list. But you'll be happy that I included it. We're going back here to WrestleMania 13. Stone Cold versus Bret in the submission match with
I would have expected you to put that
as
on
the ref. Would you have expected me to have it on it? Because I toyed with this one myself even today. But yeah, it's in there. Just again, it's just, you know, Shamrock's role in it and stuff like that.
You got my second last one as well, because it was my for me it's become my number one WrestleMania match of all time.
Really?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. And because I listened to a podcast with Edge and Christian where they had both guys on it, and I've listened to Bret and Austin talking about how they put the match together and all the little intricacies. And of course, this one match changed the face of wrestling forever. It ushered in the Attitude Era. I mean, again, we're looking at another passing up the torch. Bret seems to be doing it every fucking year at this point, doesn't he? Passing the torch at WrestleMania 11 to a 100-year-old Bob Backlund, passing the torch the following year to Shawn Michaels, and now he's passing the torch to probably a man nobody probably deserved it more than Austin, because of the double turn on this, the intricacies of the match. You know, the story that gets told, you know, Bret's going in still as the good guy. There's still a good section of the fans cheering him. Not as much as it used to be, but still. But there's heat there either way. He still matters. You know what I mean? Yeah. And
the addition of Shamrock as well was pivotal, wasn't it? Because Shamrock's in there and he's jacked to the gills, like, you know what I mean? That's the business.
Shamrock when the two boys are out fighting at the hockey hordens. And seeing fans putting their hands on their shoulders, and Shamrock is there, like, looking at them going,
you got to knock one of the fans out. Yeah.
It's like, you don't need security. He's a security man and a referee all in one.
And he looked psycho back then, didn't he? Proper psycho, like, yeah.
But would you agree as well that this was something you had never seen from Bret before either?
No.
This was a brawl, and it was meant to be a submission match. So again, Bret was able to construct this match to make Austin look good, because Austin said, I don't know any submission holds. What the fuck do I do?
And Bret probably turned around and said, well, I fucking know how to brawl.
Yeah, so let's
have a go. And it was probably refreshing for Bret as well, because Bret's such a technical genius. So for him to be able to go in there and just lay it out there like a bar fight, he probably loved it for a change, because he didn't have to go so technical on it. You know? So yeah, it was brilliant.
And of course, you know, again, I know people go, oh, here he goes on about Bret again, but it's only nowadays that people are actually starting to realize how good he is, because of the old of AEW wrestlers talking about it. The amount of people that I've seen that always had something negative to say about Bret because it was kind of cool to say, or because he was bitter. Yeah, I mean, how dare he be bitter, you know, having a stroke and a heart attack, getting screwed and losing pretty much most of his family. No reason to be bitter at all.
I'll say,
Anyway,
listen, they can't pin it on you tonight because I'm listing these ones off.
exactly.
So tonight's on me.
Exactly.
It's not you.
But the one thing I wanted to point out, another little stroke of genius, as Austin said, he didn't want to get color because he was afraid of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And Brett said to him, "You need to get color.
Yeah.
I'll do it for you. And it'll be on me." And it's the one that got away from Vince that he never knew anything about. That Vince was turning around and go, "Little bastards." But I'm glad you did it.
And boy, did he get it.
But
this was horror movie stuff, wasn't it?
And again, that's the iconic moment that still was always on the don't try this. I was about to say, don't you try this at home. Don't try this at home.
Yeah.
You know,
it was kind of like that. Remember the Becky Lynch moment when she went into the crowd and turned on the face?
It was the first. It was the first, and it got all.
And it was dripping off. Remember, it was going down into his teeth and everything and all when he was trying to. And it was.
And then he passes out in a pool of his own blood. I mean, what's tougher than that, right?
No.
Genius.
Yeah.
So that was my number one WrestleMania match. Now I still have one more to go, but it was my number one of all time for the time being. It could change next week.
Great show.
So you're next again, because
I'm next again.
I had it too.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to change the flavor up on my next pick because I think we both know that we're huge fans of tag team wrestling without a shadow of a doubt, and it is really the lost art in pro wrestling, I think. So you can't really do a top 10 list without including a match which was so innovative, so brilliant, so well put together. TLC 2, WrestleMania 17, Hardys versus Dudleys versus Edge and Christian. The match had everything in it, everything. Missed nothing, and I had it on my list because I thought I needed to change it up a little bit and give a little bit of a touch to the tag team division and stuff like that. And when you think of the tag team division, of course, we grew up with Bulldogs and Heart Foundation and all that classic stuff. But these guys just brought this to another level. And when we talk about matches that shaved years off people's lives, this match is it, you know. So
well, look, the only tag match I'm putting in my greatest of all time is WrestleMania 6, the Heart Foundation versus the Bolsheviks. 6 seconds. No, that's not true. I didn't put this in my list. I didn't put any tag matches in my list. Boo-hoo. Sorry, people, but you know, I am a big tag team guy. There's too many standout singles matches that that overrule it for me. But I mean, if there was going to be a tag match that would be on my list, that would be it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a fan, I wasn't a big fan of all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's only now at the time, but it's only now when I'm going back and I'm watching it again, because I actually watched that match pretty recently. Because I think we talked about this a little while back, didn't we? For the 4 Podmen.
We covered them on a couple of Podmen episodes and stuff like that.
And I went back.
I just thought, I just thought with the innovation of it as well, and I was thinking, I tried to teleport myself backstage to these boys, how to put this match together. And when we think about WrestleMania 17 being such a great WrestleMania, you know, and these guys had to put this match together in order to stand out on that card as well. And the stuff that they put in there, and 3 so very different tag teams.
Yeah.
But they mesh beautifully and they put the match together fantastically. And I just thought I had to get a shout in there.
No cocaine was killed during the making of this match.
They never forgot the talc.
Never. You'd need it for this. Good Lord.
Well, you'd need it probably more after it than before.
Before and after, just to keep, God.
Let's keep this party rocking.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're down to our finals, aren't we? We're down to our.
We are. Well, have you an extra one, because you didn't have TLC on yours, did you? Or you're done? You're on your last, are you?
I had 2. Sorry, I'm on 2. Yeah.
So you have 2 to go on.
Right, I'm going to go with Kurt Angle makes another appearance on this for me.
No surprise.
So that's 2 Kurt appearances for me, and Eddie Guerrero, WrestleMania 20.
Yes.
2 of my favorite. At that time, I think Guerrero, Benoit, Jericho, and Angle, they were my 4 guys that I just watched, that I would love watching, religiously. And that was when I broke into the business as well. So having them to kind of look at as a yardstick, before you were going down training on a Sunday was just pivotal.
What a great combination.
Oh man, these two guys. I mean, and you know, it's funny when you hear Kurt saying, you know, Eddie would try him sometimes backstage and all because he'd get so angry, you know, that Latino heat, like, and Kurt would be like, Eddie, I'm not going to hurt you. He'd be like, come on, try hurting me, man.
Kurt's that guy who'd niggle at you all day. Wouldn't he be giving you shit from the minute you hit the stadium?
Oh yeah. And then you're like, I really want to fight this guy, but like, he'll kill me. It's like, you know. But my God, these two had. And look, I think Kurt and Eddie had chemistry with everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah. They could have chemistry with literally a broomstick. Sorry for the old cliche, but when it came to these guys working together, oh my goodness! So this match actually was this definitely made my list today. Again, I went back and watched it there today. I watched about 3 matches today when I had an hour of spare time, and I did fast track some of them, but this one was one that I watched in full. So Eddie and Kurt definitely makes my list.
It's very, very hard to fast forward an Eddie Guerrero match, isn't it? When you
can't do it.
You know, any Guerrero match that comes on, even when
you're going to miss something,
you see it there.
You're going to miss something.
Yeah. Even when I'm working in the shop, it's funny enough, if I'm working in the shop and I'm cleaning or I'm laying out stock or whatever it is, if a Guerrero match comes on, I could be sweeping the floor and I stop and lean against one of the rails to watch it and observe it. Like I find it hard to focus on anything else when Eddie Guerrero's in the ring.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kurt, of course. You know.
Oh yeah. So we're down to your final 2. What have you got?
So we're down to 1 each now, isn't it? We're down to 1 each. Yeah. I think we'll probably match on this. I'll be surprised if we don't. But I went. You can't have a WrestleMania match, obviously, without Hulk Hogan in it and Mr. Parts Unknown from WrestleMania 6.
Well, then we're even then. This and this wasn't planned. I left this one to last too.
Yeah, I left it to last, and not because it's the best. Again, they're not in any order or anything like that. But Hogan Warrior at 6 was an amazing spectacle. And just it was unbelievable. The build.
Like, how old were you at that time? Not to give your age away, but people who were good at maths will be able to get it.
What was 6? 6 was
1990.
1990. I was 18. I was doing my leaving cert.
So I was 6 years of age. So you imagine being that 6-year-old in school where literally, you know, for Halloween costumes, half of the room was dressed as Ultimate Warrior, half of the room was dressed as Hulk Hogan. Me, I didn't have the balls to dress as either at that age, but I was a Hulkamaniac. Yeah. But at that time, as a kid, and I'd say at your age group as well, because even like my dad.
Well, I was 18 going on 6 at that stage.
Yeah. We're still the same. We're probably our age now, still going on 6. So
yeah. I watched. I had a VHS tape of that, and I watched it so much that I just destroyed it. I just the amount of times I've watched that match is just, and it never gets old and it never gets stale.
Yeah. It's like I said to you, it was my first Mania, which I believe on an episode of the Podmen, one Road Dogg tried to debate whether I was old enough to remember that. I was like, well, at 6 years old, you pretty much remember things, unless you're the Road Dogg drinking whiskey at the age of 6. But I wasn't. So I definitely remembered every bit about that. And like I said, I remember I went to watch it live. I didn't get to quite see it live because I fell on the couch, basically. I was so young. But I remember getting the tape because obviously my dad's friend, Callie was his name. Yeah. He had, I think it was Sky Sports at that time, was it? Or I can't remember.
It was, yeah. Okay. Hillary's brother recorded it off Sky Sports and he used to lend me the VHS as well.
Yeah. So it was whatever way he recorded anyway. They had satellite. You had to have satellite television. Yeah. And he recorded a copy for us anyway. And I remember going down the next day. I remember I was off school the next day, sitting watching it that evening. And I remember my granddad sitting in the sitting room. I remember my uncle, my dad watching it again. Because they were obviously probably drinking that night, you know what I mean? Yeah. But everyone engrossed with the story. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Everyone at that time was engrossed.
Yeah. I was sure Hogan was gonna hit that leg drop. And then when he missed it and the other lad comes after the ropes with the splash.
Son of a bitch. I was distraught.
Yeah, I just remember him in the ring holding the belt, and he's holding the ropes, and all the sparkler and the pyro behind him and all at the back of the ring and stuff like that and all. And it was just
that was so iconic,
Hogan going down and getting the belt and having to present the belt to him and stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of stories about that, about Hogan ripping the shine and all that kind of stuff. And there was a little bit of that now, but I mean,
it meant a lot at the time, though, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a sensational moment. I mean, to stand in a ring, imagine being a guy standing in a ring and you've just beaten Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan is handing you that beautiful winged eagle strap. I mean, life doesn't get any better than that, does it?
No, I still have that WWF magazine from that, and you know, it's that famous picture of Warrior with the two belts. But when you open up on one of the pictures, when it gets there's a shot from, I'd imagine, just looking up at the Warrior where he has the two belts, and that big, huge, famous screen at the Toronto Skydome, which is still there.
Yeah.
And you can see the Warrior in the background, and there's actually electricity coming down from the roof.
Yeah.
It's weird. You probably know that shot that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I remember just going, wow.
Yeah.
That sums it up.
There's actually a moment in it where he's looking up at himself. And we know from covering the Warrior, we've covered him so much on the podcast and the Podman with Jay and all and stuff like that. But he's actually looking up at himself, and he's in disbelief at himself on the screen. It's amazing. Like it's the child that was in him that we often talk about. 100%. You know what I mean? He was, like, I mean, look, nothing wrong with being a fan of yourself. It's not all good, isn't it?
Well, if you're not, that was be.
Yeah. Well, that's two fairly comprehensive lists that we put together there. So we've a little bit of everything for everyone. We've Iron Man matches, submission matches, tag,
Well, let's go down through a list of honorable mentions. I'll just give you mine, and then you can give yours. I had Benoit, H, and Shawn Michaels, and H on the honorable mentions. I had Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair on my honorable mentions.
24, the career match.
Yes, because that's
amazing. That was at it.
Yeah, I know.
That's another one. I picked these well. I did. These ones I picked to go to. I really picked them well.
I mean, this was
incredible match.
This is probably another one of those emotional matches that you'll never get out of your head. I went with WrestleMania 19, Michaels and Jericho.
Yeah, good one. I looked at that today and I was tempted.
See, no one can call me biased either, because Michaels is quite prevalent here on my list. I went with Austin The Rock. I went with 17 though, the no disqualification match.
Yeah.
That was the turn. Then I went. Guess who makes another appearance? Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon ladder match, where Shawn Michaels wrestled the ladder.
That was out there today as well. That was in the thoughts.
That had to be. And then I've one more, and it was another fantastic match, and arguably technically a better match than the one we just finished off with, Warrior and Savage.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 7, the retirement match.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my honorable mentions.
Nice. For my honorable mentions, obviously Steamboat and Savage, WrestleMania 3. Again, could flip-flop up into the 10 list, no problem at all.
Yeah.
Hogan and Andre, WrestleMania 3, just for
pivotal.
The timing, the pivotal, the effect it had on the business, all that kind of stuff. Shawn and Rick, the career match at WrestleMania 24, again could flip up into this top list. Hogan and Rock at 18, you had mentioned. Brett and Shawn, the Iron Man match, was notable mention there as well. Warrior and Macho was a notable mention. But I'd one notable mention that I think doesn't get the praise that it deserves at all. WrestleMania 29, Undertaker versus CM Punk, which I thought was unbelievable. I thought the job Punk did in the build-up to the match, I thought was unbelievable. And I just thought it was incredible. The work he did, he came out the urn and all that kind of stuff, the build he did on it.
Paul Bear,
held his own in there. And I truly believe, looking back, I think it's the match that should have broke the streak.
Yeah, in a crafty way.
I think the wrestling business would have a very different dynamic today if they had to punch the button on something like that, as opposed to what they went with. I think we might have a CM Punk who is an absolute out of this world superstar, legend of the business, if that had happened.
I would agree with that.
So I put that in there as a notable mention. I've mentioned it a number of times on podcast episodes with the Podmen as well. The work that CM Punk did in the build up to that match, and how he just, I remember when he attacked Taker and he took the urn up and he poured the ashes out, but it was sand, obviously. It wasn't ashes, no, but he was just so brilliant, Punk.
It goes under the radar, that, doesn't it? And I actually haven't watched that match in a long time. So it's actually something.
It's worth going back, but it's worth going back and looking at, that video package they put together. The video package where it goes back and shows all the shenanigans of Punk and all of this. Was Punk at his absolute electric best. He was just incredible. Yeah, so that was a notable mention that may not appear on a lot of lists, and certainly doesn't get the praise and accolades that it deserves in terms of the streak.
No, I agree. Well, look, that about wraps it up for our top 10 and honorable mentions WrestleMania list. You see how we managed to sneak others in there? We always find a way.
Well, as I said, you're trying to do 10. You could just go through 17, 18, and 19, and you could fill 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, 100%. I think what would be a cool little thing to do one day is we should go through every WrestleMania and pick our best match on the card. So in the build up to WrestleMania, we could do that, because that'd be a really cheeky way of thinking outside of the box. Pick what you felt was the best match on each card. You know what I mean? And ones that stand out to you, something like that. But if anyone has any suggestions, do make sure you like and subscribe to the show first and foremost. But let us know in your comments what you agree with, what you disagree with, and don't forget, put your picks in there as well. Put your top 10 WrestleMania matches of all time, and we'll give a shout out to someone.
Maybe drop as well your notable mention, like the Punk one there, that's outside of the norm, from left field.
Yeah,
if you like.
Think outside.
Give us a notable mention there. That's not one that's being mentioned tonight, because there's a massive amount of crossover in this when you talk about people and their top 10 matches.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you're going to agree on 6 or 7. And you're going to have a variation of the 3. And the 3 that you have a variation on is always in your notable mentions. So they match quite uniquely. But if you have a match out there that's near and dear to your heart, let us know what that match is, if it's different to our list, and why it's near and dear to your heart. We'd love to know why you've gone down that road. That'd be pretty cool to see that from your viewers. Yeah,
because I love hearing people's narratives as to why a match.
Well, the story, because it could be anything. It could be that, like, you were going through a tough time in life, or you'd lost a family relative or a member of a family or something, and wrestling picked you up out of that dark place, and it was that match that got you back on that road again, or something like that. Something that's really close to here, something like that. Would be really cool to hear from someone, a little bit of a backstory why they include that match, what it meant to them. It could be anything.
100%, and we might even bring you on the show to tell us why, because it is WrestleMania season now. We're going to be doing a lot of this kind of stuff going forward.
Could be anything. Could be your first memories of wrestling, why you got into it, and how you started to follow it, and maybe it was WrestleMania 5 or 6, and it meant so much. It could be anything. But we'd love to hear the backstories. Is what make these, not necessarily just the matches.
100%. It's the nostalgia that's the important thing. Well, until next week, Niall, once again, been a pleasure. We're going to see a lot of your beautiful face over the over the course. We're going to do a lot
of these lists over the next 8 weeks, aren't we?
Oh yeah, 100%. And we'll have some guests probably from your show, and some surprise guests on as well to talk about different Mania moments. And if you do have any suggestions of things that you'd like us to bring up with Mania outside of the box, or anything at all, let us know, and we'll definitely consider it. And even bring you on, and you can talk about why you chose to go down that road.
We've a good one coming up on the upper tier that we did. We did the football Royal Rumble, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a WrestleMania card, 8 matches, but we're going to replace the wrestlers with footballers, and we're going to build to a main event. Who would be the 2 footballers you would put in your WrestleMania main event?
Well, you got to bring me on that show then. I'm definitely
definitely coming on that one. Be cool just to construct a Mania card, but out of footballers, not out of wrestlers.
Frank Lampard and John Terry against him. Jamie Carragher and Stevie G.
What manager in football would manage that tag team? You know what I mean? If you say, imagine John Terry maybe and Frank Lampard as a tag team, and I don't know, Conte as the manager.
Well, Jose would have to manage them, wouldn't
he? Jose maybe.
You'd have to. Yeah, 100%. With Idago
You know,
Johnson
just
running in from the outside,
out of nowhere.
out of
Yeah,
nowhere. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
To
absolutely.
help
Yeah.
out the
But I thought
boys.
that would be a fun one. We thought when we were doing the Royal Rumble one, we said we will do a Mania card structured with footballers, and we thought that'd be pretty cool. And we try and allude to the footballers who we think they kind of are in wrestling. You know, do like a little link kind of thing. You know.
Yeah. Well,
So Adama Traore will be like The Rock or something like that. You know what I mean? Because that kind of thing. Yeah. Kind
well,
of cool.
on
Bit of
that, why
fun.
don't you tell people where that are football fans where they can find you and how they can follow you?
Yeah, well, you get us on YouTube. The Upper Tier, the channel is out there, absolutely flying at the moment. Content going up every day. We do match reviews, previews, reactions, ratings, specialist shows, guest interviews, Legend Series look backs. Beat the Bookie is out there every week with tips for your bets and all that kind of stuff. You'll get us on Twitter. We're at the_upper_tier. The Upper Tier Podcast on Gmail if you want to email us. We're on Facebook and Instagram, The Upper Tier, and we're out there on TikTok, The Upper Tier Podcast. Of course, audio versions show every week and every day, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. So wherever you've no excuse not to find us because we're everywhere.
That's it. If they don't want to see your heads, they can just listen to your voices. If they want to see your heads and don't want to listen to your voices, they can put you on mute and watch it. So it's so many options. There's so many options.
Whatever your particular flavor is on that given
particular, yeah. Listen, it's 2022. There's plenty of weirdos out there. Listen,
and we make up a lot of them.
We do. Of course, you can find me at Dynamos Dozen, of course, at Ian Kelly 800 on Twitter, Dynamos Dozen on Facebook. We also have a Dynamos Dozen brand new. Now, there's not much content up on it yet because it started from scratch. Dynamos Dozen is on Instagram as well. You can just type it at Dynamos Dozen. Soon to be on TikTok. I'm going to try and dip my toes into this TikTok thing as well. So we'll definitely mess about with some of that. And dynamosdozen@gmail.com. And of course, you know where to find me because you're on my YouTube channel now. Of course, you'll find all of those links in there. Anyway, but until next week, thank you each and every one of you sexy guys and gals out there who've been supporting the show as it's gone on its own. On YouTube over the last 2 weeks. We're seeing the views starting to creep up slowly but surely, but we're getting there. Some of the feedback has been absolutely fantastic, and it's much appreciated, and it's how we make a better show for you, and I love it. No comment is too negative, no comment is too positive, so be sure to hit me with everything you've got, because this old boy can take it. But until next week, for me, Ian the Dynamo Kelly, for Niall the Shopkeeper Hogan, we are over and out.